Okay, y'all, welcome back to the show. This is Professor Menakaya. I'm your host with Dr. Henrietta Wright. We're having a really great day so far. This really talking about artificial intelligence. We really want to go into this next section, really going to like how we experience the new generation, not lazy generation C teachers. But it's funny because when you think about the new generation, these are people who have been influenced by social media. They're a part of a generation where artificial intelligence plays a big part. So now we have to ask, where do they go next? How do they guide themselves? How do they step into the role of education? What role is education going to play in the modern world? So what we're going to talk about is my experience as a teaching assistant last year under Dr. Wright, who teaches EDUC 200 at Morgan State University, Introduction to Education and Teaching. Basically, the course has a textbook by Sarah Powell. The book really defines how students view education, how they should build their pedagogy, how they should be able to look at different ways of what's going on in the classroom, especially the American classroom. And it was a very good experience for me because I do see myself more of a scientist. I actually have a science background. Before I even came to teaching, I didn't even think I was going to be a teacher. But life happens. And when I stepped into teaching, there was a few things that I always realized I always need for myself. How am I going to prep a curriculum that is innovative? How am I going to provide an instruction that's innovative? And then how am I going to provide a assessment that motivates students to reflect on what they learned from me? So that's what I got at from education. But I think what I'm getting from the course that I took with Dr. Wright as I was teaching these kids is we have teachers who are very different from the way I teach. Whereas you can give them technology, you can give them resource, you can give them a lot of guidance, but they may miss the mark, which is okay. Everybody's different how they learn. But I think one thing that was very interesting for me was the tools I use. Dr. Wright gave me a lot of leeway, a lot of space to introduce Kahoot, Canva, Whiteboard.chat, Genially. These tools are really great tools. They're engaging tools. There are tools I used as a middle school teacher, high school teacher. I was actually a science teacher of the year under the National Science Teacher Association for new teaching. And these were the tools I used with the middle school and high school kids. So I was really excited to provide these tools for college students, which totally missed the mark. They were into it the first semester. We had a great batch of 24 kids. They were just in it, on it. They made their lesson plans. Then we came to the next semester. I didn't even know who these students was. I didn't even know I was in college for a minute. I didn't know who I was teaching. And that makes it very interesting because there were some disappointments. We had some students, call them activities candy based and very sensitive, like suicide. I had a cousin that committed suicide this year. So there was a part in Sarah Powell book that actually went over suicide that let the students reflect on what would they do in that situation. So we had students that even I wouldn't say disrespect because I try to use words that don't really be biased, but they had students that missed the mark and would ask me like, "Well, why should I answer this question when it has nothing to relate to me?" So I began to see that we had students that were minimally trying to complete assignments and not trying to go over and beyond themselves to learn something to prepare themselves, which I wouldn't mind if these weren't our new teachers. So we have teachers now that are just minimally doing what they can to bypass. No, that's not what we're seeking in today's generation, but that's what's going on. So now we're looking at what happened to the art because the science is telling us that these kids no longer want to learn and be the great people they're supposed to be.
Yeah. And it was very interesting for me because in my 28 years now of teaching in higher ed, this is probably the second semester class, the most, I don't know how to describe the word, to describe these particular students. Checked out, I don't know what, But to experience students who didn't even want to come to class for whatever reason, didn't want to engage in any of the conversations, didn't have a clue of professionalism whatsoever, and yet they wanted to just get by, do enough just to get by. Yet these are the same students at the end of the semester were looking for us to like save them at some particular point,
Mhm.
but you didn't want to engage at any point throughout. And the course, which is Foundations of Education and Teaching, it's in a gateway, I guess you'd say, for those students who are looking to see if they want to come in the field of teaching. But it is a foundational course for our elementary education majors who already made the decision that they want to be teachers. And so when I think about my first years of coming into the university and I walk into the classroom, students had their notepads ready. They had their pencils ready. They're ready to take notes. We walk in the classrooms now, students don't even know that you even walked in the classroom because they are in their electronic devices. And when you wanted to incorporate that technology that they were already dealing with, it was interesting to see the pushback. And it was just so funny how I told you when you said the whiteboard and I gave you the it's white, it's boring, it's bored. They don't
You did?
So when I'm talking about this boredom or being bored, what we find ourselves doing is competing with the likes of Instagram, YouTube, and so forth. So we're taking them from educational to entertainment. And that's what we having to deal with when it came to that pushback. So it's gonna be interesting with the next group, that we'll be dealing with to see how that actually plays out, especially now that we're gonna have AI, at a higher level than what it was in the classroom. Because we think about how interesting it was for you and I when we were grading the assignments, and we could clearly see that the student used AI to give that response.
Right, right.
So what again, that always goes back to what kind of teachers are we going to be preparing if they're going to constantly be using this AI for that. So
Yeah, the teachers we always want to have in the classroom, teachers that care. I don't see a teacher that doesn't even care about their own work, will care about my students. We want teachers to be accountable. When you think about submitting something that's not really yours, that means you didn't hold yourself accountable. You just kept it moving. So then I don't know if these teachers, what they expect from the student they encounter. How would they have these students play a role, stick to the routine, and be able to see that when they're right or they're wrong, when they themselves are not even following up that procedure? Another thing that I'm really having trouble with these new generation teachers is just being great for themselves. It's like they don't even know why they're in the classroom, let alone trying to go into the classroom. Is this like, oh, I know this is going to give me a paycheck and this is going to give me a job security. And it's true. Nobody can deny that if you are a teacher, you are secure. You can't say that for the government right now. So I'm really sorry for those who are hearing that, but it's true. Being a teacher has always and will always be a great time depending on who's entering the classroom. If you're somebody that didn't have no friends and didn't really respect your own teacher, I don't really see you being a teacher unless you had like a life-changing experience like I want to do better. Which did happen to me, which I'll get to talk more about in future episodes. But I understand that the generation today don't want to be in the classroom.
right,
They just
because
don't want to be.
and that's a disposition. It's like, why do you want to be a teacher? And or even why in the field. Like most people, it might be, well, I have parents who were, teachers, and that's why I want to. Oh, I love children or working with students. It's got to be beyond that. That's why when we had that one assignment, it's got to be above and beyond that love for children that you want to teach. And it's so funny that the people who are making decisions about education don't seem to have the education themselves. But it's really weird and I always like to quote Dr. Warren Heyman, who'd always say, I don't know a physicist, a chemist that did not go through a K through 12 education. So even though you might be an engineer here, you might be this rocket scientist here, you had to go through some kind of K through 12 education. And that's why the field of education is always going to be something viable. Some people say, you will always have a job no matter where you go, whether you're teaching someone how to read, whether you're teaching someone another language, whether you're teaching someone the math or science, education is always going to be the forefront or the I don't know, the cornerstone, the capstone, whatever you want to call it, because think about what happened in the pandemic. Who were the first, when you talk about first responders or the emergency people, who were the ones that were in that position? Teachers.
Yeah, those teachers. Yeah.
Parents now realized, hey, my child's teacher is not just someone in the classroom that's, babysitting. They're actually having to teach these particular students. So we get them for what, 8 hours or so? You take them back. We don't want them.
Yep,
But
so-
especially the group we had. So you have to think about that. What makes education so viable? What makes it so important? I mean, because you said everyone can be an artist, everyone can be a scientist or whatever, but is everyone an educator? Is everyone a teacher? What is a teacher? So those are questions that we have to ask. And in this world of AI, is AI the new teacher? Is AI a better teacher? Because when you think about the physical things that happen in the classroom, can AI deal with classroom management? What is AI going to do when a student physically gets in your face and says something or does something? Now, we know hands off, we can't do anything when in the classroom, right? But how is AI going to deal with that? And if you're not going to be authentic yourself in your responses, how do you expect to be the better person, better educator, better teacher that you should be without?
So really good questions that we want y'all to ponder on, because we want y'all to really understand that AI is here. And as we get ready for the next episode, AI is the new brush, tool for creative pedagogy, we're going to bring you more depth of why you should listen to artificial intelligence. This is your host, Professor Menakaya, with my great co-host, Dr. Henri Wright.
Get me right.
Gotta get you right. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Peace.